Well, we had a great week of practice, and I think it's a couple more days of just fine-tuning and getting our guys just locked in for playing on Saturday. So got our final practice outdoors today, and the elements will be ready for any weather that we're hit with on Saturday. So with that, I'll open up to any questions that you might have.
Brian, can you kind of clarify what was going on with Stefan last night?
Yeah, I think more than anything else, he kind of, stumbled into the question and answer and didn't probably answer it in the manner that he was wanting to. I think he was saying, yeah, I've got another year and I'm coming back. I think his intentions weren't to say that he was necessarily making a decision. I've pretty much made it clear to our players that anyone, including Lewis Nix, we've had this with Manti Te'o and Tyler and Michael Floyd, that any decisions relative to the status that our players have relative to the NFL, that will exhaust all of their means relative to the NFL and their draft status, as well as talking to their family members at the end of the season. And so no decisions will be made as long as I'm the head coach here until the end of the season. We won't be making any announcements. And so I think Stefan just got caught in the question, and just an honest answer to a question that he probably wished he could have answered a little bit better if he was asked the question again.
You've had pretty good, quote, success in these guys generally deciding to return for the last year. How do you do that? I mean, what are you doing? What does Notre Dame offer that you think prompts them to lean in the direction of coming back for that extra year?
Well, I think primarily, Tim, it's the ability to gain their degree and have their degree in hand, as well as if there are opportunities for them to gain leverage in the NFL relative to their draft status. I think those two things are the most important. The third would be to come back and play with their teammates, and not necessarily in that order. I think you take a Zach Martin. I think maybe number one was to play with Nick, not necessarily to enhance his draft order or to get his degree, because his degree was going to get taken care of, right? So I think those, Tim, would probably be the overriding factors in all those. Tyler came back primarily because he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for the NFL. He knew what it was going to be like. He still wanted to be part of what we were doing offensively, and knew that he was going to be featured, and it was going to probably enhance him. So I think each one is a little different.
What about your role in creating an environment that would prompt them to come back for that?
Well, I would hope that that's part of it. I think that any head coach would want his players to feel that they enjoy the environment that they're in. I would not say that would be the number one reason that somebody would come back, but certainly it would be part of it. But I think those other factors would probably be primary in making that decision. I think with Stefan, you're going to look at a strong family decision as being part of this, as well as his degree is going to be very central to this. So I think each one of them is going to be a little different.
Thank you.
Yes.
Brian, I know that a lot of times you like to practice on the stadium on Thursday. Is the new turf the reason, and do you have any idea how that turf is going so far? I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
You're going to get me in trouble. We're hopeful that, we've gotten a lot of rain, and certainly that's the reason I'm not on it today. It's been covered. Chad Klunder has been over there. He liked the way it looked. All the reports have been positive. But we're 3 weeks into this, right? We put it down the day after the Monday after the Oklahoma game. So, we're hopeful. We expect good results. but I haven't been on it, and so there is a bit of an uncertainty when you don't, obviously know what to expect, but we're hoping for the best there.
Brian, Grace was your dime linebacker too, and is that a role that Dan Fox can move into? And we saw Joe Schmidt doing I wondered if he just stepped in an emergency role for Grace.
No, Joe will be in there. Yeah, Joe and Fox won't come off the field. We're gonna rely on him, to play a lot of football for us. And so relative to the Mike position, that's where we are. Michael Deeb took some reps there as well. Kendall took some reps at the will linebacker position. So you might see Kendall in there a little bit too.
What has held him back a little bit? I guess Kendall, as a senior that does get on special teams, usually for you that's been the conduit to the field, started out on special teams as the sophomore, redshirt freshman. And
I think more so, the solid play of two seniors with the combination of Fox and Calabrese. Now, of course, Manti kept everybody off the field at Mike, right? So now you're dealing with the will linebacker position, and the combination of Fox and Calabrese has probably been more to do with it than Kendall Moore.
Coach, you talked all season about getting off to a fast start and putting more points on the board. So how, I guess with this game, how important is it against a powerhouse like USC to get off to a fast start?
It's one of our core principles relative to winning football games. It's start fast, attention to detail, effort, enthusiasm, and finish strong. It's in our locker room. It's what we talk about every day. It's part of how we train. It's part of how we practice. I can't understate it enough how important it is. Hasn't been something that we've done very well, but against good teams, you have to get off to good starts. And when we haven't, we've struggled. So our team knows it, our players know it, and it'll be important again on Saturday against USC.
And how important is it to get your defense ready for some of those returning threats like Marquise Lee?
Well, it's a good question. We actually showed them 2011 film with Woods and Lee and all the weapons that they have, because the speed of the game is going to be out there. I mean, our guys have to be ready. Coming off a bye week, the biggest thing that we concern ourselves with is the speed of the game right away. And the speed that USC has, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is the biggest thing that we have to be prepared for right out of the gates. And so we've made our defensive players in particular aware of the speed of the game, especially right out of the gates, is going to be something that they're going to be keenly aware of, because they can push the ball vertically.
Brian, we look at box scores and you see completion percentage, and people just assume that's all on the quarterback. But Tommy, the last 3 weeks, how much of that has just been, you're pushing the ball vertically, maybe a little bit more, so that's not going to lead itself to a high completion percentage, receivers, checks, all that stuff. I mean, how many different variables go into that beyond just Tommy being accurate?
A couple of things. We're running the offensive passing game a little bit differently. We are pushing it vertically a little bit more. Less zone coverage, much more man-to-man coverage. The breakdown, when we did it in our self-scout, is almost 2/3 higher relative to man coverage over zone. Defensive football and college football over the last 2 years has changed dramatically. If you go back just a couple of years ago, the completion percentages were off the chart because there was so much zone being played. You just couldn't get teams off the field because you're overloading zones and your spot throws. You got to man up. You got to get on body, and so defense has changed a little bit. And so we're seeing a lot more man-to-man coverage, which means you have to be a lot more accurate. So accuracy and man-to-man coverage, and we're pushing the ball vertically down the field a little bit more. So those two things. But Tommy's got to be more accurate too. I think you got to add that to the third piece.
We were talking a lot about TJ this week and his rapport with Tommy and kind of the ability to adjust things on the fly. How close is DeVaris to TJ in terms of just an understanding about how it all fits together and be able to adjust to defenses and coverages while bullets are flying?
Well, You know, I think it's consistency with Daniels more so. I think, you know, we're still striving for the same thing week in and week out with Double D, where TJ, we know what we're going to get each and every week. And I think Tommy and TJ are on the same page. Where Daniels might read off coverage and he may break the route off, TJ may see that as I'm taking him deep, you know, and there's a bit of a, you know, a different look at it in terms of how Daniel see things and TJ, and that's just work. They just have to spend more time together on those things. So I don't think it's complicated. I just think they just, you know, they have to continue to work together and get on the same page.
TJ asked him about it yesterday. He said there's really no way to fast forward that as a receiver. It's just, so it's just kind of a natural thing.
Yeah, because we're not seeing a lot of complex zones. You know, we're going to see some zone this week, but we're not seeing a lot of complex zones. We saw a lot of what we call, you know, 4-nail, which is pretty much man-to-man coverage. So, you know what I mean? We're not getting a lot of complex cover 2s and quarters and bracket coverages. So I can't say, well, you know, we're not reading these zones right. It's just been a lot of man coverage and just getting on the same page, timing and things of that nature.
What's the counterbalance to all the man coverage? So what can offenses exploit when you start to see more man? Obviously, there's got to be something they're giving up when they go to man.
Big plays,
Yeah.
you know, big chunk plays. So, you know, the ability to take advantage of those big chunk plays is really where we have to continue to evolve. And that means in the running game as well, you know, where you don't have layers to your defense, that if you break through, and we saw that against Oklahoma where George was able to break through for a big run, that you're able to get big plays. And we've got to get more of that.
What kind of practices has Andrew Hendricks had the last couple of weeks? And if you do decide to go down the road of mixing and matching at quarterback, is there anything that's holding him back from that role at this point?
I think the only thing that held him back was lack of, you know, really putting him in the game and giving him reps. And I think, quite frankly, you know, the focus was on you know, Tommy, you know, getting him ready. He's gotten so much more time and so much more you know, involvement in the game plan, that I'm feeling so much more confident that he can go in and run the entire offense, where I wasn't as confident earlier in the year. And he's locked in, you know, he's making the checks in the passing game as well as the run game. And yeah, I would say that, you know, we're at that point now where Andrew Hendricks can go in there and he's not a change of pace guy anymore, in my estimation.
Any injuries pop up this week that would keep somebody out of USC?
I hope not.
Will you tell us?
Anything else?
Wow.
Are we good?
Are we good?
Thank you. Okay.
Awesome. Got out of it.